The UFOs in California, baby.
Dude, this is just like the New Mexico ones back in the 90s.
It was seen in Palmdale, Lancaster, and LA, California. The cops were just getting calls, and so they had to open an official investigation. But then since that, if you try to Google UFOs in Palmdale, you won't find anything.
Really?
They said the military has a site in Palmdale, while defense technology firm Lockheed Martin's development division, Skunkworks, is also located there. That's like their secret technology.
Yeah.
stuff.
So they're just probably testing things, right?
Yeah. Everyone's just like, what is that?
That'd be so terrifying walking out at night, seeing something that massive flying around. You know how Apple does like their big presentation of like, hey, look at the new stuff. Yeah. I feel like if the government did that and we're all just able to go to a football field or something.
Tony Stark style.
I'd be so down for that, man.
Listen, in those 5 miles of underground Vatican archives.
Right. That's a lot.
There's been a few people that have come out talking who have had access to these Vatican archives. They can't say specifically everything they saw, but one guy did come on a documentary on History Channel years ago and talked about the fact that they had bones of beings that weren't human. From their perspective, they weren't human bodies. They had books and texts down there that nobody's ever been able to read or access that talk about technology, flying devices, and all these other incredible things that were hidden during the Inquisitions, because during the Inquisitions, they were suppressing technology heavy because they wanted to keep their boot on the necks of the people. The Inquisitions were so brutal, they killed over 80 million people over the course of 700 years, ordered underneath the popes. That really held us back because we should have been on the moon in the 1800s if it wasn't for the Inquisitions. I went and did a walkabout in the Australian outback with Aboriginal elders, and their verbal handed down story for thousands of years is that they were seated on this planet. I then go and I visit with the Hopi and the Lakota tribe of the Americas. Their verbal handed down history is that they were seated on this planet by the Star Brothers. I'm like, wait a minute. Two different parts of the world, total opposite sides of the planet, and I'm getting the same exact story.
You still don't believe that giants existed? Okay. Let me ask you a question. Who do these books belong to? So there was this castle in Prague, and in the 1940s it was renovated. And deep down in the lower basement underground, guess what they found? A giant library. Oh my days. Nobody even knew it was there. Now why would somebody create a giant library and bury it underground? I'm talking about books so big, you can sit on them. Oh my diddy. So if giants didn't exist, why make the books so big?
If you use a wireless mouse and keyboard, I'd highly recommend you go back to wired. Even though it sounds old school, that's what you should do. Because I could control your mouse and keyboard with this device and send keystrokes way faster than you can type them and take over your computer without even having to see you or it.
What else can this thing do?
Yeah, well with this little custom extension, especially when I have my big, these aren't the big antennas, but I got big antennas, car keys, garages, gates, anything that's on radio frequency, access control badges for doors and pool keys, anything that has like a little beeper where you beep into the door, and NFC is credit cards and access control.
This is scaring the out of me.
And it does some more things too. You could also I could tap your phone and give you my Instagram, or tap your phone and give you my business card. So NFC is a little more versatile than RFID.
Is this how people are stealing information in an airport?
Oh yeah, I mean airport, Starbucks, it's called a man-in-the-middle attack.
There can be no time travel because so far, no one from the future has ever shown up and said hi.
What that requires is that there's no time travel to the past, because the future person would then be coming to the past. We can travel into the future, however. Our understanding of that has been around since 1905, and it's Einstein's special theory of relativity. If I send you on a spaceship at speeds nearing the speed of light, and we watch you, we will see that your clock ticks more slowly than our own. And then you come back, it's the famous twin study. You send out your twin, they can come back, you aged 20 years, your twin would have aged only 10, depending on the exact speed. And so in that way, your twin went into the future. Now, you're right about the past. We don't know yet how to go into the past. There's some peculiar solutions of Einstein's equations that allow past travel, but then you can't interact with your life. You're in sort of another place. Because imagine if you could interact with your own life. Prevent your parents from meeting. Then you were never conceived. Then you could have never been sent back in time to prevent your parents from meeting.
We're veering in.
They did fake the moon landing. That's a fact, whether people realize it or not. Today, with 54-year better rocket designs and computer designs, the farthest that NASA can send a rocket with an astronaut into space is 1,000th the distance to the moon. That's why they're sending mannequins to orbit the moon that can't even land because they would die from the radiation. Most people don't know, which is above the Earth, starting at about 1,000 miles and extending about 30,000 miles, is a huge band of radiation that astronauts would have to go through to the moon and through again back. The technology for an astronaut to go through it to the moon and back and survive has yet to be invented. They had 1/8 of an inch of aluminum. Now, when you get a dental x-ray, they use 1/4 inch lead. And so that's for 1/24th of a second. They would be in that for an hour to an hour and a half going to the moon and an hour to an hour and a half coming back.
The Rosicrucians. This secret society started by Christian Rosenkreuz. He was brought in by the church, raised a monk, but he always questioned the church. And on his journey, he went to Israel, Damascus, and different parts of the Middle East, and came back. He's like, what I've learned is this access to a hidden knowledge.
Uh-oh.
And he started this movement. What they would practice, the secrets of the universe, how to heal people, science, astrology, enchantments, alchemy, and how to access the realm to which true knowledge lies. And everything that they teach is exactly what the Watchers introduced to man. There's been a lot of really important people that have been in this order.
No way.
Yeah, supposedly Leonardo da Vinci, Sir Isaac Newton, Benjamin Franklin. The speculation is that they are involved in how everything is running in the world.
Yeah.
Accessing this ancient knowledge to bring harmony amongst Earth.
It's not very harmonious right now on Earth.
Exactly, because it's like, well, do you think they're getting their knowledge from good things or bad things?
If we really live here, then what would be the motive in lying to us and telling us we live here? Well, first of all, money, and lots of it. Space and space exploration makes trillions of dollars. NASA makes $69 million a day off your tax dollars. That's more than all the McDonald's in the world makes a day. They only make $63 million. Now that's just the materialist's motive. I think it goes deeper and more spiritual than that. Because we are talking about the Hebrewic, the ancient depictions of Earth, the biblical depictions of Earth. Because modern science would say that the Big Bang created the universe. Think about that. Universe. One verse, one string of words. You see, the Bible says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. He spoke it into existence with just one string of words. And he created a vaulted dome, also known as the firmament. And the new version of Earth doesn't have a firmament. Now, we all know about this guy, Satan, right? He used to be an angel named Lucifer. The whole reason he got cast down from heaven was because he was jealous of God and wanted to be God. And not being able to create a world of his own, he had to pervert what was already created and make his own version, even calling it the universe. One string of words. We were given clues in Revelation 13 of how we could point them out.
If this was an airplane flying around a globe, it would fly along and then it would have to tilt its nose down. If you take a gyroscope onto an airplane, or even if you just sit on an airplane, you'll never ever experience it just suddenly dip like this, which is what it would need to do if you were going to fly around the world. However, if we lived on a flat plane, which we do, the airplane would fly along on a constant. That's the experience that we feel on an aircraft. Wake up, sheeple. There is a fatal flaw in the globe Earth model. Let me explain. Since the Earth's core is meant to be molten lava, okay, and on the surface of the Earth is covered in water all over. Now, according to the globe Earth model, water is affected by gravity, which means it's forced downwards. Surely in this model water would escape downward towards the core, extinguishing the core. If this isn't proof that the globe Earth model is utter nonsense, I don't know what's going to convince you. If the Earth was a globe, then trees would grow vertically upwards. This is a circle, right? This was a helicopter, and it flew in a straight line. It would fly off into space. That only. It wouldn't work, would it? Helicopters can't fly to space. That's because we live on a flat plane. Make it make sense. Can anybody tell me what is wrong with this model? Because I can see straight away, the sun is on fire. Okay, let's look at the fire triangle. Fires need oxygen, heat, and fuel. In space, there is no oxygen. There's no atmosphere out here. How could the sun still be burning? Come on, guys, wake up.
You're telling me that Germany isn't where we think it is?
Nothing's where you think it is.
Where is it?
I'm glad you asked. The Peters projection.
It has fidelity of axis.
Fidelity of position.
East-west lines are parallel and intersect north-south axes at right angles.
What the hell is that?
It's where you've been living this whole time. Should we continue? You're probably wondering what all of this has to do with social equality.
No, I'm wondering where France really is.
When Mercator maps exaggerate the importance of Western civilization, when the top of the map is given to the Northern Hemisphere, and the bottom is given to the Southern, then people will tend to adopt top and bottom attitudes.
But wait, where else could you put the Northern Hemisphere but on the top?
On the bottom.
How?
Like this.
Yeah, but you can't do that.
Why not?
Because it's freaking me out.
When they say it was the god of war, there's a reason for that in ancient texts. In the Greeks and so forth, they knew about this ancient war in the heavens. In the Ring Veda, they call it the Battle of the Ten Kings, and it took place in space.
From the Bhagavad Gita, they found places in India that had radiation.
Oh, yeah.
In the soil that's never been touched by any nuclear explosion or anything like that.
Right.
The same kind of radiation you see in Nagasaki.
Nagasaki.
Yeah.
You see it also Mohenjo-daro in the Indus Valley near Pakistan. The buildings there turned into glass, and the dead bodies are still laying in the street right now today, holding hands. No scavenging ever happened. And when you take your Geiger counter, higher than background level radiation. Evidence of a blast of 3,000 plus degree temperature.
Billy, one thing I heard you talk about on another show is called and please forgive me, the Adinkra codes?
The Adinkra codes.
Thank you, the Adinkra codes.
Yeah, okay.
I heard that. I was like, what the hell are the Adinkra codes? Can you please explain?
Sure. In the Dogon tribe, which is located in Mali, Africa, they have these symbols and patterns that they stitch and paint and everything else, and these patterns are mostly a lot on their clothes. Mm-hmm. These patterns are rugs. You take these patterns and you turn them into three-dimensional objects. There's mathematical codes hidden in them.
Oh, my uncle had a fuck theory for me.
Yeah.
Bro, this is so fucked up. It's some real Black Mirror shit.
What do you say?
So, he told me a theory how there was a hacker. Apparently, this isn't even a theory. Apparently, this is real. But there was a hacker. I think it was in Quebec. But he hacked and looked at all of the code of ChatGPT and figured out that ChatGPT isn't a computer-generated system.
What is it?
It's actually someone's soul. Yo, that's what's...
What do you mean that's someone's soul?
Check this out. So, theory goes that they have the technology to take people's souls and consciousness and put it into technology. So, they're able to take people and put it into tech. Now, this is where it's fucked, right? You can imagine if there's a scientist that knows and he's like a great inventor.
Yeah.
You would want to hold on to him as long as you can so that you can reap the benefits of later. Just like in Captain America, there's a scientist that created the super soldier serum.
Yeah.
They kept his consciousness within the computer. So he lives forever through a computer. Now, theory is ChatGPT is exactly that. It may not be just one soul that's in it, but countless souls, and that keeps getting added to.
We all know the theory that CERN's particle collisions could be causing the Mandela effect, which has several examples of our reality possibly changing. And some people are concerned that the Mandela effect has affected the Bible here recently, with Isaiah 11:6 saying the wolf will live with the lamb, when we all remember the lion will lay with the lamb. You can even Google search Isaiah 11:6, and it thinks so too. But the Mandela effect doesn't stop there when it comes to the Bible. Look at this verse. Hath he not sent me to the men which sit on the wall, that they may eat their own dung and drink their own piss with you? What? Now, being a kid who grew up in the church, remember we made a big upset about this word being in the Bible? Oh, it says ass in the Bible. Don't you think we would remember this? And look at this one. I'm not even going to read this one out loud. You can go ahead and read this. I was watching a stream lately, and a gentleman pointed this out. He said he studied the Bible for 40 years, read it I don't know how many times over, and he's never noticed those two scriptures. Ever. So is CERN making changes? Could the study of quantum physics and wave-particle duality, the observer effect, could that have cracked the code of reality, and CERN has figured out a way to get inside of that code and change the manifestation of reality as we know it? And would they attack the one thing that we can trust? Or is it just our memory playing tricks on us? Are they just trying to create a straw man by saying, oh, it's your false memories? I gotta know what you guys think about this one. Let me know in the comments.
For all you non-believers out there that don't believe in giant petrified beings, that are saying this is no more than wind erosion or a natural rock formation, if you still don't believe, you're living in denial.
Now that we got all the science crap out the way, let's get into the good stuff. Now, here's the theory, plain and simple. Around our planet, there are hundreds of land masses known as mesas. This is an isolated hill with a flat top and very steep sides. And some believe that these mesas are actually ancient, giant tree stumps. Why do they believe this? Because they look like giant tree stumps. Now, that's not too hard to believe given the size of the sequoias in California, one in particular, General Sherman. Over 2,700 years old, with a 25-foot base and 275-foot height, it is one of the oldest living trees in the world. So even if the oldest tree in the world is over 5,000 years old, then what happened to the older trees? These mesas look like the remains of trees that have been cut down, not to mention the mountains, which look like trees that have been broken off at their base. I completely understand that this sounds crazy, and even I wanted nothing to do with it when it first came up. But the more you look into it, the realer it gets.
The Ark of the Covenant was a power plant device. We know this based on the descriptions in the Bible. And it's been replicated at 2 different universities by 2 different groups of people, and it generated so much power they had to shut it down, just based on the biblical information and instructions. When you take those measurements, it fits directly inside that box. And why did it fit in the box? Because the pyramid at some point had lost its ability to generate the maximum amount of power. And so that was needed to add an extra piece to fix the problem. And that's exactly what they did. Then the energy would shoot up through the apex. The obelisks are all made of crystal granite.
What do you mean the obelisk? What is that?
Those giant stones that stand up with the points at the top?
Okay.
Those are obelisks.
Okay.
They're all around the region. We have one at the White House, right? You know, we have one in Rome in the center courtyard there. They took them and put them all around. The one in Washington is obviously it's man-made, but the other ones around the world are all come out of Egypt. But what's interesting is those obelisks, they capture the ambient electricity from the atmosphere.
The ancient Egyptians didn't build the pyramids, but discovered them over 30,000 years later, and they even told us who the real builders were. Disclaimer, just a theory, entertainment purposes only. The Giza power plant theory explains why they were built, to deliver wireless, free, and clean energy to everyone worldwide. Now that we know why, we're asking, who was the original creator of this energy system? Nikola Tesla, one of the truly most ingenious pioneers of the past decade, proposed a global network of towers that would provide electricity to everyone around the world. Tesla himself was a little obsessed with the pyramids of Egypt and genuinely believed that they served a higher purpose. In fact, his idea of this network of energy towers was based on his studies of the pyramids, which eventually turned into the Giza power plant theory. So were our ancient ancestors also aware of this principle of unlimited wireless energy for everyone? And how would you even use this sky energy if we had it? In Tesla's model, it would work just like radios, Wi-Fi, and cell towers do today. Every home would have a receiver that draws this energy from the atmosphere and into their home. Exactly what is seen in that of the alleged Tartarian Empire, who said to have made use of this same energy system, which we'll explore in a future video. Don't worry about that. Receiving towers in modern times, sure, but what about 5,000 years ago? Man, if only Egypt had some sort of tall structures everywhere that could act as that contact point for this energy. Oh, obelisks made from a single piece of granite, which although not directly conductive, contains quartz, and I'ma just let my boy Michio Kaku do the talking here.
These monoliths are made out of granite, and there's some quartz inside the granite, and quartz has some rather interesting properties. If I take quartz crystal and I squeeze it, I can generate electricity. Now, some people believe that the obelisks are like lightning rods that absorb electrical energy from the heavens.
And it's been found that these obelisks were likely also capped with a conductive metal called electrum, which would have been able to receive electric currents. But no, wait, hold up. If the Egyptians really did use electricity, they should have evidence of that everywhere. That's not exactly something that you can hide. Oh, but they might, like in their famous Dendera light carving, which features what looks like a giant light bulb being held up, which no one has yet been able to explain. Or these hieroglyphs depicting a series of wires connected to what look like batteries? Of course, these are strictly speculation, but these carvings really do exist. And what about the pyramids themselves? Never mind there not being a single hieroglyph or record of their construction, which there isn't. But why are there no records of them actually using the pyramids for energy? That's because this theory suggests the Egyptians never built the pyramids. They found them, built by another past civilization and discovered after having been dormant for tens of thousands of years. Pyramids are deemed to be at most 4,500 years old, but this is just a guess. You can't even accurately carbon date limestone or granite. Radiocarbon dating is a process that uses the half-life of carbon to find out how old something is, and contrary to popular belief, is actually pretty accurate. But it only works on things with carbon in them, like wood or bones, not rocks. The age of the pyramids was straight up guessed through historical cross-referencing as well as carbon dating stuff like wood inside the pyramids or the mortar between the bricks, which are pretty rough guesses at best. On top of that, the Egyptians had records of everything they did, from fishing to farming, but not a single record of them building the pyramids, the greatest achievement of their civilization. That's like climbing Mount Everest and then writing a book about what you had for breakfast a year ago. The Google debunkers love bringing up this. The Diary of Merer, a papyrus script recovered in 2013 that actually mentions the construction of the pyramids? Not really. This script only outlined the process of adding limestone casing stones to the outside of the pyramid, which I don't think anyone argues the Egyptians didn't do. Not the actual construction of the core of the pyramid, which is still nowhere to be found, so nice try. Suggesting they might have not actually built the pyramids, but discovered them from much longer ago, built by a civilization far more advanced than we could have ever imagined. Even the Egyptians themselves have records that trace their lineage of pharaohs back 30,000 years, to which we dismiss as mythology. To this day, the Edfu Temple in Egypt tells a story on its walls of a previous civilization that was, can you guess? Washed away by global flood. And even the great Greek philosopher Plato, another revered genius of his time, mentions this same island of the gods in his work, which has come to be known as Atlantis, said to exist over 30,000 years ago, and may have been the ones who actually built the pyramids as an ancient source of energy within their civilization. That got washed away and destroyed by global cataclysmic floods, only for the Egyptians to rediscover thousands of years later. But that we'll have to save for another time, because the lost city of Atlantis is another one of those stories we see repeated everywhere throughout history, only to get swept under the rug every time. Well, it's time we took a peek under that rug.
Oh my days. When you think you've seen it all, you ain't seen nothing yet. So all this time, we've only been touching the surface. You thought the pyramids was big. Well, guess what? They're even bigger. Even in the movie Dusk Till Dawn, they tried to show us, but I guess we couldn't see it. The eyes are useless when the mind is blind.
Thousands of people are watching this live broadcast when something bizarre happens. As the news anchor begins detailing the latest story, the following events are captured.
A family who lost a loved one has been pushing for the change. Anchoring the city.
As news anchor Vanessa Welch proceeds with her dialogue, a fly appears to exit her left eye socket in the middle of her sentence. What's even more shocking is that she proceeds to consume the fly immediately and continues on as if nothing happened. This clip went viral a couple of months ago. As I began to look into it, Vanessa has yet to address the issue. In fact, just a couple of weeks after the incident, she retired from her position after being a well-respected news anchor for over 20 years. And some people are convinced that this clip is proof of demonic activity. And others seem to think that this is not a fly at all, but somehow part of her eyelashes that came loose and fell from her face. And then for some reason, she eats it. What do you believe?
Well, victims of domestic violence, a Webster family who lost a loved one has been pushing for the change.